thank you everybody for coming along this morning. Welcome along. And we're going to be telling you a little bit this morning about the Growth Circle. The Growth Circle is a tool that we've developed in the AI space. And Beau will be leading you through the solutions for it. Now, why do we have them? Now, to give you the journey, okay, we have been working in this space now for a number of years, okay, and it didn't start off to be an AI tool. It started off to be a research tool, because we believe that where AI can deliver the most benefit is in the sales and marketing field. Now, our bot is a bot that thinks and sees like a sales and marketeer, as opposed to the more general bots, which are ChatGPT, etc., etc. So what we're going to do this morning is do a real live demonstration. This is not pre-prepared. We're going to pick out one of you, and Beau will take you through how we might identify an ideal client. And I'm going to hand you over to Beau now. But at the end of it, this session will take about 20 minutes. Okay. At the end of it, if you've got any Q&A, please feel free to ask any questions. But ask any questions, put them in the chat as we go along. I'll hand you over to Beau.
Thanks, Steve. Morning, everyone. So Steve gave a brief overview of what we're doing. So I'll introduce myself first. So my name's Beau Ormrod. I'm a business growth expert and owner of Focal Point Executive and Business Coaching. And today we want to show you a practical use of AI. But before I do, I always like to kind of start off by telling you why we do what we do. And we genuinely believe that we're in a new era of business ownership and business leadership. It's way different than it ever used to be, and it's growing exponentially. But I believe that just as kind of professional athletes rely on coaches to get to their peak performance, business leaders deserve the same. And this new wave of senior leaders with just slightly better tools or even slightly better information get drastically better results. And this impacts on their lives is amazing, as their business owners, on their family, their friends, their mates, their community, their stakeholders. And that gets me excited to do GrowthCircle, because what we're going to show you is a tool which is designed to help you get way bigger results from you or your company than just your individual efforts. Now, I'm just going to quickly do some points before we get going. We're all on Zoom, and I have got a presentation. So with presentations on Zoom, kind of don't let the medium take away from the message, because the style of the slides or the funny pictures that I've used or whatever it is, don't let that distract you from the value of the material. And equally, don't let me distract you, because I have a dodgy Mancunian accent and quite a dry sense of humor. So I guess what I'm asking on this call is permission to be myself. Is that all right? Good stuff. Equally, give yourself permission to be you. Take as much from this material as you can and chime in with questions as we go, because I'll be getting into quite a bit of content. And when we get into the use of the tool, I'll be coming to one of you so we can run this as a live demo. And what Steve meant by we don't premeditate this or precursor this, we use this in a live environment. And what we'll show you today is the ability to pinpoint an ideal client for any business. Now, that can be your business, it can be your mate's business, a hobby, an interest, something that you might have as a brand that you think, you know, I'd love to know who their ideal client is. You get to choose today. But before we do it, I just want to talk about the practical use of AI for professional and personal growth. And when I talk to business owners about who their ideal client is and how to find that client, here's often the problem. They just don't know who it is. And business owners find it challenging to define or maintain clarity about who their true target market is. And when it comes to understanding who to serve, they just don't know. Or they'll kind of admit having some inconsistent or rudimentary strategies. And when I'm talking ideal client, I'll just explain that a little bit. And I always use the same example, which is North Face. Everybody knows North Face, the brand, right? Yeah. Everybody knows what North Face do. Does anyone want to hazard a guess as to who North Face's ideal client is? Just come off mute and shout.
Mountaineers, people that do trekking, stuff like that.
Yeah, that's a good shout, James. Anyone else?
Skiing.
Yeah, close, Gary.
Journalists.
Journalists. Not bad. Not a bad guess. I've had some funny guesses. I've had young Scouse lads was probably the funniest answer I've ever had. It's none of them. It's close. It's an ice climber. And anything you see around North Face, their branding, their marketing, their communications, their go-to, it's all revolved around an ice climber. Now, how many people do you know with a North Face jacket? I mean, I own one. Hundreds.
Yeah, know someone there.
How many ice climbers do you know? And it's that.
Zero.
Yes, same. And it's that which makes North Face stand out. When you sat at the sidelines or you're looking to gather up, buy a warm coat, you do the same thing, you do the research, and they stand out. And they stand out because they know who their ideal client is. So it means that they don't just serve anybody, but they can. But it helps them stand out in an industry which is way oversaturated. And it's critical for all business owners to know who your ideal client is, because otherwise it drives us to wasting endless resources. It's kind of like having a leaky bucket with your time, your energy, your money, your sanity, your marketing, your branding, your comms. Yet we don't know we're leaking because we've got so many blind spots around understanding who that client is, their behavior patterns, insights. How do you translate all of this into an actionable sales strategy so you can see the client? So then when you're trying to grow the business, you kind of feel trapped. You just don't know why the clients are not coming through the door in their droves, and you don't have a way to break through to that next level of growth. To grow a business and reach all your ideal clients, you need to know who they are. And if you don't, it can be frustrating. But the cool thing is, it doesn't have to be that way, because we can get really surgical on this, like really specific. Just like North Face does with ice climbers, you don't need to change a ton of stuff. You can get really good at improving one thing at a time. And that's what we're going to show you today, which is around how do you know who your ideal client is? How do you know who your product, your service proposition, your values, your vision, who needs you? Who needs what you do? And AI is incredibly good at doing this. It's powerful, precise targeting through insights, otherwise invisible kind of to traditional data. So things like psychographic behaviors, geographic demographics, we've got new tools which can analyze nuanced analytics. Because when we do it, we start to adapt. We start to make the business shift and change and pinpoint to those ideal clients, regardless of what they look like. Then we can start to think about increasing the velocity of the business, the sales, the revenue, the efficiencies, the costs, and that creates momentum. It allows us to earn more, work less, and growth and freedom become more part of daily things. But we do it one step at a time. Does that all make sense? Yeah, good stuff. So this image, it kind of sums up the idea behind GrowthCircle. It's driven, ambitious business owners sat around an AI campfire, and they're thinking about the ways to make their business or your business more successful. And that's what GrowthCircle is. We use guided sessions, just like the one today. We've got 16, and they're built sequentially to help empower you guys with those cutting edge tools. So we can start to stay ahead of market trends and consumer needs, and ensuring your brand not just kind of stands out, but helps you drive exponential growth, because we're using data. We're using an AI process that has been years in the making. And this is tool one, and we break it down for a particular reason. And again, I'm going to use an analogy, and of no surprise, anyone who knows me, I'm into cycling. And it's an analogy that I use throughout all of the GrowthCircle tools. And this one's this guy. And I get a load of funny looks when everyone says, yeah, we know who Lance Armstrong is. But if you think about Lance at the peak of his career, like super fit, really experienced, mentally tough, really focused, and committed to doing whatever it took to win, right? And maybe a little too eager. But my point is, he's technically fantastic. And yeah, I'm a 44-year-old ailing cyclist, and I don't get out anywhere near as much as Lance does. I'm nowhere near as fit as him, but Lance at his prime today, and me today, I can beat him in a bike race. And the reason I say that is because I get to use my road bike, but Lance gets to use this. And if any of us were to choose an average road bike, we'd likely beat Lance. But this is the point. If this is his bike, it's crazy to put the focus on him becoming a better rider. If I was coaching Lance and trying to get him to win the race, I wouldn't start with, hey, Lance, we've got to get your body fat down. We've got to get your power to watts ratio up. I'd look at it and go, no, Lance, we've got to get you a better bike. It makes no sense for you to become a better rider. The obvious focus is build a better bike. So the goal switches now to building the better bike and not getting fitter. We all know a kind of a competitor or a colleague who's doing something similar to us right now. And no offense, they don't work as hard. They're not as smart. They're not technically as good, but they just have more success. But then it's like us going, yeah, well, we'll get more customers when we do this. And I'm here to tell you, no, you need to build a better bike. You need to build a business bigger than yourselves because you're already amazing at what you do. The business needs a better bike and the business needs to work harder. And again, does that analogy make sense? Give me a thumbs up. Good stuff. All right. So I think everyone knows the problem. 35% of failures cite poor market understanding, which is crazy because we are in an era of info overload. There are a ton of AI advances, constant news updates, social media bombardment, health advice. It's pretty overwhelming. Growth Circle's here to cut through all of that noise because we want you to avoid being part of another stat that just makes for poor reading. And the cool thing is it definitely doesn't need to be that way. So what you're going to see has been refined over years. There's tens of thousands of hours that have been gathering all the most advanced cutting edge data-driven tools, which will help us to deliver actionable insights real time. So in the demo today, we'll show you things that will start to anticipate trends, where it aligns with the consumer needs, where you can start to immediately differentiate your brand because you've got your ice climber in the crosshairs and everything you do. Bit about the engine because it's useful to know. It's kind of got a gut because it's been learning behaviors over years. It's not the generative AI or the agentic AI. We use what's called agentic AI, where it's like having a 10K a day consultant sat across the table from you, talking with you and asking you the questions that you should be asking, not what you know or what you know how to prompt. But that's one of the things with agentic and generative is that you need to kind of know how to use it. This already knows it. And it's a hybrid of qualitative, quantitative, and we all know how difficult that is. But the killer with it is that we've got an error rate of about 0.5% on what it shows us. Most large language models, the kind of the ones we all know and use, about 8%. And this is how what we coined the term straight shot bot works. This one's a sales and marketing expert, and its head is teeming with insights on how to pinpoint your ideal client. And it's been uniquely trained to be able to do that. So I'm going to get into the tool. And as I open up my next screen, any questions? Any thoughts? No? All right, let me get this.
We're just waiting to see it now. No one wants to speak. Just let's see it.
All right, let's get it open. There we go. So this is one of many tools, and this is where you come in. So fastest finger first, let's make Friday a bit of fun. Does anyone have a business, a friend, your own? Anyone that's interested in knowing who they want to know as an ideal client? And whoever comes off mute first and tells me about them, we're going to go with that business.
Go on then, I'll go for it.
Go on.
So our ideal client is, excuse me, our ideal client will be a funded startup that's proven their concept, have a small team of very engaged people, but very disparate technology. They've generally got their computers off the shelf, or they're just old computers they've got. They probably use a mixture of cloud services, don't really have much in the way of organisation, but are about to
Yeah.
get some funding or are planning to get some funding.
Yeah.
And so they know as soon as they need to start hiring and scaling their team, their technology that sits in the middle of it needs to get organised, get secure, and that needs
Yeah.
to happen quickly, and it needs to be able to scale quickly in the future.
Amazing. Right, James, what business are you in? What's your business?
We're the business name is
Yeah.
Inception Support. Inception Support.
Let's see if I can find you. This you? Look familiar?
Yeah, that is.
All right. Let's test the tool, James. So the way this works is the first point is to feed the tool the information about the business we're investigating. So we want to put into it as much insight, information, white papers, strategy decks, URLs, all the information on a web into the tool. And it'll start to learn who it's looking at. So if this is you, there's a couple of ways we can do this. There is a good old Control or Control C and Control V, so copy and paste. You can copy the URL in, but it does limit the amount of information that it puts into it.
Okay.
So you can input at this point strategy decks, white papers, anything you want to do is go to markets, anything you want the tool to know, put this in. And James, we're going to do a little game of tennis, to and fro. And this is what it's learned and known about your business just off your web. So help me out. So your Inception Support, you're a technology-focused solution for businesses on Apple products. You work with startup SMEs, enterprise ed institutes, and you want businesses to use Apple Mac computers, iPhones, iPads to fullest. Is that true?
Correct.
Good stuff. Core services. All ring a bell?
It's a bit small on my screen. I can't read. That's why I put my glasses on earlier. Device management, IT managed service, cybersecurity, consultancy, 365. Yeah, they're the core fundamentals of our business.
Awesome. Can everybody else see the screen okay? Yeah, good stuff.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to put it on my big screen. It just means I won't be looking at the camera. There we go.
Amazing. So it started to learn a little more about your business, James, and it's just give us a first glance of a summary. He wants to know if what it's captured off your web is reflective and clear about what business you're in. And here's where it starts to act like that consultant. So we can get to the next page, which will give us an idea around your SWOT analysis. So based on what you do, you sell, your service, product propositions, all that kind of thing, it's going to do some initial analysis. And the first piece is SWOT. Everyone knows what SWOT is, but we also use PESTLE, which is political, economic, social, technological, environmental. And it starts to give you an idea of what business you're in. And this is just the playback. So this is just kind of easy stuff. This is just telling you what you do and what it's learned off what we've read. What it also wants to learn is anything particular around niches, strengths, weaknesses, about your team size, your workforce skills or expertise. Are there any specific industries that you primarily work with that you want the tool to help when it's looking at pinpointing your ideal client? Any geographic areas, any B2B, B2C? Have you got a preference?
Yeah, it's B2B is what we work with, and we're looking to work more in the financial services and fintech startups because we've got a couple of those customers already and we like working with them. But also there's in creative agencies, particularly creative agencies that are geared up to embrace AI and use AI more in the future for creative content.
Let's tell it. So the way to use the tool is you kind of have a conversation because it'll ask you questions. Because ultimately what we want to try and get to do in this particular tool is we're going to get to a point, James, at the last page, it's going to give you 5 really detailed client profiles. And it'll tell you that when you're out networking, when you're out marketing, anything that you do in your branding, your communications, your messaging, it will all be pinpointed to these clients. And they're your ice climbers, and it'll get you to this point today. So what you told me at the beginning about who you believe is your ideal client, let's see what this comes up with. So more information. So we know we're in the B2B, FS, fintech, startups, creatives. We'll feed these into the next page, which is just around your SWOT analysis and your PESTLE analysis. Anything else you want it to know at this point, James?
We're ideally looking for team sizes of 10 to 100 that potentially already have exposure to Apple technology and Microsoft 365.
The more insights you feed at this point, the more specific it gets with those client profiles at the end.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so this next page is going to start to think about you as a business. So Inception supports a business and everything it understands. The particulars we fed around B2B, fintech, financial services, and so on. It's going to give you a page around the market, around your business, your workforce, the position in the market and the industry on a strengths and opportunities perspective, and then a weaknesses and threats. So we're going to flick through this really quick. But at this point, it's about understanding, great. So these, as you stand today, as Inception support, here are your strengths and opportunities. So obviously expert in Apple tech, you've got quite a diverse service offering.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at cybersecurity and IT managed services, you've got great credibility with your certification, good target focus, and some good synergies. Your workforce is really experienced in Apple deployment technology and SME enterprise and education. You've got multidisciplinary IT skills, so it already knows about this. You've got great position to scale managed services, great on consultation for AI workflows, market positioning. The demand for MSPs is particularly rising in this space. So it looks like you're in a good position for these kind of industries when you're looking out there. AI adoption is obviously growing as we speak. You are a premium niche service provider. You're not just another generic IT solutions, which say that's fair.
Correct. Yeah.
Good presence in the UK. And with Apple being a preferred spans to the new small and medium businesses, you're in the right space. Threats and weaknesses. This is just about the industry, your business, the workforce, and the market today. So these are just things to consider. And typically business owners lean in and say, yeah, I know this. I know I've got opportunities. Let's just say that my threats and weaknesses are the things that I might want to grow into. Or in the market, what it's done, James, is looked across businesses that are similar to yours. And instead of against them in the competitor space, here's where you might have some threats and weaknesses. Any of these jump out?
Competition for other managed IT service providers is probably one, but not necessarily, not just from the Apple technologies, just from MSPs in general, because most businesses still gravitate towards Windows devices because that's what's generally dictated from most MSPs, and that's because they can make more money out of it and because they know it better. That's just the way. So we're always facing an uphill challenge in terms of this could be a better choice, this could be a smarter choice. Don't discount it.
Yeah, that's really interesting because what the tool will do, it will know your capabilities, and with you being Apple focused, when it gets to that ideal client output, it will only put in front of you those clients that are looking for Apple products. It's not one of the things where you get most large language models. If you're looking for this kind of service, it gives you a very generic answer. Sounds intelligent, but this is now all specifically designed for Inception support. This is all about you, all about your businesses, what you've told it in the niche, in the 10 to 100 in the markets, everything you feed it, it's funneling down into a position it'll pinpoint your ideal client. So as you stand today with no change, no amends, unless you want to feed it in a little bit of strategy growth of where you're going in the next 12 months, this will tell you today, based on what you do and everybody surrounding you in the competition, here's your ideal clients. And it's going to start to do that now. Okay. With 10 niches, you can start to explore. And it would be wild if it didn't bring up your ideal niche that you mentioned right at the beginning. So these are 10. The first 5 are aligned to your strengths and opportunities. So when it knows about Inception support, here are 5 niches that you can target today based on everything you do today, based on your strengths and opportunities. It'll also give you 5, which are more aligned to business growth. So if you wanted to extend and expand, here's 5 more left field niches you might want to consider or you might never have considered that actually would use and need you. So I'll skip to the first 5, as these are going to be mainly in the non-surprising category, but we help you understand to say, well, great, if we was to look at just SMEs in fintech, what do we do around finding them? Your estimated revenue, buyer personas, the pain points that you as Inception support can resolve, where to start to find them. And it starts to then think about, well, if we was to go down this route of thinking, let's just use small, medium fintech companies, or in fact, let you choose. Any of these particular niches jump out? So you've got the SMEs, creative agencies, which you've mentioned, startups in AI and machine learning, education, training companies, and then tech consultancies that are currently using Microsoft and Apple. Any jump out?
I like the first one. I think the first one's a good fit. So I think that's a good shout.
All right, let's use these. This is where the tool can help you with that kind of the filtering of downness. And you can go back and ask it to do each one. We can just today look at small, medium-sized fintech companies using the insights it's given us today. If anything in here doesn't quite fit with something you've either got as further insights, or you want it to go down that level of, well, tell me more about the buyer persona or the pain points because I want to align my business strategy with what they're doing, we can ask it.
Okay.
Interestingly, we've got 5 others. So these are where the market has told us that there are high growth opportunities for what you do at Inception Support. There are healthcare tech startups that are starting to adopt Apple, data analytic companies, boutique agencies in brand AI, they're looking at it. Professional services, so legal accounting, they're looking at digital transformation or digitization, and then digital payment platforms. Any of these you want me to explain? Oh, by the way, so it's told you that we can expand similarly if you need.
Yeah. Emerging digital payment platforms and startups could be interesting because it sounds similar to one of our other clients. So we could use one of our clients as a good case study, potentially, in that space.
Let's ask it. It will now give us a more detailed version, similar to the first 5, but it's going to break it into even more insights around emerging digital platform payment startups. And it starts thinking, great, so if Inception Support was to start to market to this niche, where do we start to find them? What are the types of demographics, psychographics, goals, pain points? What are the niche pain points? How much can you think about earning for them? Where to find them on social and non-social platforms? What relevant products and services have you got today or might want to think about in the future to serve this niche? Where to find them, and then the conclusion around this particular niche. So why have we shown this? Why have we chosen it? And what is it telling us about the alignment to Inception Support? Anything on here jump out? Anything on here that you're finding either obvious, not obvious, or intriguing enough for us to ask it further questions?
I think, well, it's just impressive how quickly it can generate just far more specific and more relative content than I've seen by using some other tools before.
Yeah.
I think the buyer persona and demographics area is useful because I think when you're trying to start a conversation or get those initial meetings lined up, if you can find the quicker you can find some common ground with someone, the easier that ice breaking becomes.
Yeah. Yeah. Have you ever had that those networking events where your ideal client are just there in abundance, and everyone you speak to, you're like, wow, this is my people networking. This is where it gets interesting, because I'm going to show you then. So if this is the niche we want to understand, let's just go with this, if that's all right with you, James.
Yeah, absolutely.
With the emerging digital payment platforms to do it, right? Let's tell you where they're hanging around. So one of my favorite pages of when we built this is, great, you're going to tell me who my ideal client is. Where are they? This is 75 events online, in person, free and paid for, where your niche hang around. And sometimes you'll lean in and go, I've been to that event. I'm considering going to that event. We ran a session the other week around a big IT M&A company, and they were like, I am desperate to get a seat at that event. And we used the tool to give it the insights to say, well, what does your company do today that aligns with the strategy for that event? Who did you speak to? Who didn't you speak to? Who else can we find that runs the event? And how can we speak to them so you're heard? Because what you're saying and how you're saying it isn't obviously working. How can we get it so they understand what you do to get you the seat? And that's exactly what we did. So here are those events. 25
wow, that's
online.
a lot. Yeah.
Invite only. So you're likely to get a slightly better, or you'd expect a better caliber and structure to these meetings, and then some free in person. So if you're around London Tech Week, FinTech, Digital Catapult workshops, these are the ones which you can start to ask it questions. Just to give a quick demo on this, any of these jump out at you?
I'm trying to see. There was definitely some I saw, and I think I'm aware of that already.
Pick one. Let's ask it about.
Yeah, I'm just having a look. Okay, let's go for AI-powered marketing meetups.
What number was that one?
Number 14.
Oh, yeah, cool. There we go.
Actually, sorry, scrap that. I was a better one. 17. Technology scaling solutions for fintech firms. That's the one.
Great. Let's ask it. And it's going to detail out this event in as much information as you need. When we get to this, the other thing you then said, James, is great. So when we know who the client is or what niche they're working in, we can start to understand where they're networking, what events are they going to. The next page is around brainstorming ideas for growth that niche would want to talk to you about. So that thing that I was saying about, when you walk to a network and you just hit it off with someone, you have that immediate connection. We built you that the ability to find those people. So this one's a revolving around strategy, tech platforms, relevant findings and insights, hosted by FinTech Meetup. This is who typically then goes through. It's about scalability techniques. So it's done this previously, and there are panel specific things at this event. It gives you some insight as to how Inception support can leverage this event. So you might want to reach out. It can then, if you want, go into detail about, well, who runs the event, how to reach out to them, where are they on LinkedIn, give me their profiles and so forth. And we can take it down that level of insight. But just in conscious of time, if it's all right with you, James, just to demonstrate the tool, because I want us to get to that point where we'd show you those 5 client profiles.
Yeah.
This page is around everything we've discussed. So web, spot, pestle. We then broke it down into 10 niches. We chose a niche. That niche was broken out into them. Well, what does that niche look like in terms of business, workforce, operations, and so on? Where is that niche hanging around in events? We've chosen an event. We've now got 10 ideas for brainstorming business growth with that niche. So things you do already and things that niche can have conversations about Inception support. So specialized packages for those guys, workflow optimization, stuff you're probably doing or even considering already. Talk to them about incubators, accelerators, webinars, service IT offerings, which you do, cross-border markets, and so on. So we can brainstorm any of these to give us more insights to say, well, how does this align Inception support with that particular profile? And the pièce de résistance is the next page, which is 5 ideal client profiles, which are really specific to Inception support. And we're going to talk to you about, 1, how much money can you make for them? Biggest tip of the question. Describe the client niche itself. What pain points do you resolve for them? How to engage with them, why they're going to love you, So right from the off, where we got an information about Inception Support, it's going to say this particular client's going to love you because, and great, this is where you're going to find them. Here we go. Mid-stage fintech startups. Decent revenue, good descriptive. Yeah.
Yeah.
Any one of these, James, particularly jump out? So I'll scroll slow. So these guys are interesting. They're a boutique agency, but they're heavily reliant on Midjourney, Dolly.
Yeah.
Good pain points for existing stuff you do. Some interesting communication channels. This always throws up some interesting ones, and we've had Reddit, lots of the social media channels. Some of them have got no presence on social media, which is really interesting, because if these are your ideal clients, then where are they? How do we?
Yeah, well, okay. Yeah. Okay.
Sales
The financial services firm, SME focus on data-driven products. Right. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This could be your ice climber. This could be something to which pivoting slightly with slightly better tools, slightly better information will get you drastically better results. And anything in messaging, branding, communications, your style, your language, your outreach, all of that aimed at this particular client would absolutely gather a big momentum when it comes to growing your business. Why does this one stand out for you?
Because it sounds similar to a client that we've resolved a lot of challenges for over the last couple of years. So I know that we've got good case study, we've got good history resolving the similar sorts of challenges. So if we can find more like those, then it's that kind of finding a level ground, isn't it? It's like, well, we've done it for these guys over here. What you're trying to achieve is roughly the same. We could do it for you as well.
Absolutely, mate. Absolutely. And we could go deeper into this. We could ask it further questions, but this gives us an idea now of 5 client profiles that Inception Support can really pinpoint, throw in the crosshairs and start to market to them. And then the next sequence of bots that we use help you do that. What's the competitors against this particular niche? Who's in there? Like, who have they got in their crosshairs? Why would you go against them? What differentiates you from that particular competitor? But now we know who your ice climber is. It's a lot easier to start to focus on, great, well, does everything I do, is it congruent with that particular person? Am I at the right events to make sure I'm at every part of their buying journey? James, thank you. Thank you for doing that for us.
Thank you. It's very insightful.
And we will definitely help with the sharing of some of that information. And that wraps up the presentation. So this is just a few ways for you to get into contact with either me or Steve. Scan those QRs because it'll give you some insight as to what Steve does further in the GrowthCircle. I do this alongside business coaching. So I help clients accelerate what we typically then go out to big marketing, insight, research companies and spend millions of dollars doing. And it takes months and months to do. We had one particular client who looked a bit pissed off, if I'm honest. And I'm like, are you all right, Pete? And he's like, not really. I've just spent $1.5 million in 12 months doing exactly what you just showed me, which was great. And I'll always use that as a quote. But this is where we can accelerate that part of the journey. And we can help you pinpoint the client so that when you're thinking about spending that limited budget, time, effort, sanity on that particular client, you know it's exactly the right one.
And just to add to that as well, you know, there's loads of different ways that we can work with you. Maybe we'll have a chat with Gary and we could pass on our details to him and, you know, and we can comment. But what you've seen today is one of a suite of 16 bots basically that we've developed all right across the sales and marketing disciplines. They all think like sales and marketing disciplines. We're not big tech. Okay, we can work with you in lots of different ways to help to develop tools within individual vertical markets as well. But we're finding the results. If you could, it is really important. The reason why I wanted to bring Beau along today is the education piece is so important in the usage of AI. Okay, what we find is when people are, that those sorts of exercises, we need to be trained how to use it. Beau is an excellent practitioner of it, and the education piece is still really, really vital, important on the journey to get effective use out of the business. But that we've achieved that in half an hour today. Imagine how you could get, how deep you could get within an hour. You come away with actionable points which can deliver growth for your business.
Stuff. Gary, I think we'll open up for Q&A if that's all right, or have we taken up too much of your time today?
No. I think, has anyone got any questions? I've got a couple myself.
Far away.
I'd just like to ask, like, I think you just touched on it, but I think there's so much of this AI-driven technology, and I think that the problem is we still need some human interaction in order for us to get the best out of it. And so you kind of need that sort of like that human person to sort of like coach you and teach you, probably for a period of time, so that you're actually going to get the real value out of it. And I think that's what's going to differentiate between the people that go and do it themselves and the people that basically have a guide to learn how to use it properly.
I 100% agree with you, James. I think that is the absolute secret to using it. We're at a stage now where we still need a little bit of guidance in doing it, and actually, I think the human element of it is really, really important. What AI is really good at is looking at data. That's what it does really well. What we've basically done, we've clanged together all the large language models and made it think like a sales and marketeer, which sounds very simple, but it's taken years to perfect it. Okay, the human element of it, the education piece, front end, back end, is still, I believe, you'll get 10x results out of it. If you use it in that way, you'll get the money that you'll spend out on the education piece will more than be justified on what you get out of the back end. We've seen it now in lots of different ways.
I think we've got Neil who has got a question.
Yeah, no, thanks. Really interesting, and thanks, Beau. I used to be an elite racing cyclist, so we could go down a Lance Armstrong rabbit hole.
I'd like to stay on the record now. Beau's definitely not elite.
This is true. Thanks, Steve. I can still beat Lance, though. Don't forget.
I guess one that it's prompted. I'm also doing some kind of speaking around design, AI, and organising summits in that. So I'd love to connect with you about that. But my question around the tool, and it's something I've seen in another tool that's in development, is referencing the source material, because I find a lot with AI tools is it's a linear based conversation, so it's quite difficult to, you go down one, as it was, rabbit hole, use that for a second, and it's sometimes difficult to track back. But then also there's a level of critical thinking, which is the but why and how and where's your referencing material, because there's, sometimes one can be challenging of that, and the endorsement, I guess, of why you think that, why you're giving me that answer, where you've got that information from. Just a thought on had you had similar feedback, and had you thought of sharing that?
So this is the question we get quite frequently, Neil. And without giving away the crown jewels, which we're always reserving to do, the 16 different tools we use is a model that's been built as if it was trained like a consultant. So all of that reference searching, whatever data, analytics, market research, papers, so the bigger kind of meta market data researchers like the Forrester or the Gartner or anywhere we get that source information, if you ask the tool, it will tell you. It'll tell you exactly where the insight came from, because it's all open source. And it's all there, but it's designed to then go and do it. But the thing that we've got, and one of the tools that we do share part of the logic behind it, is it's like an FAQ. So typically, if you go to the back of the page, what are the frequently asked questions that are normally asked when you build this? We operate more on an SAQ, which is what you should be asking, rather than what you kind of people frequently ask. And we've built that into the model. So rather than it go and get the answer you typically frequently asked, it'll get the should ask question, and it'll also tell you where that source information came from. So then it can either link you to the document of where you can go and research that white paper, that strategy doc, that particular company, and all of it's related back, because it's really frustrating, Neil, when you get that information. It's like, great, well, why have you told me that? Like, where's the logic behind it? It's built like that. And that's where you are paying the monies for those consultants, because they provide that level of insight and they've paid for that access to that kind of market research. It's the same with this tool.
No, I mean, that I understand. I mean, I've been working with, and I'm an artist formerly known as a McKinsey consultant, is that, you know, I've been working with somebody who's actually looking at trying to build, or is building, kind of, you know, value maps for generating businesses to actually put a consultancy in a box, you know, and I think the referencing and purpose of where the answers are coming from, I thought was it gave me confidence in the answers that quite often I do not have confidence in. And I was on a discussion panel at MKU on Wednesday about the value of AI, and we were talking about, I guess, the purpose and trusting the tools, and, you know, trying to understand their intent, data harvesting versus what's in your best interests. And so again, it could go into a theoretical discussion, but just sharing, I guess, what your presentation has prompted in my mind.
We have, in that situation, Neil, in the past, where we've been challenged. Of course, you know, it is open source information. You know, my argument today is, well, you can't get private source, you can't get, you know, analysed data with private sources. But what I think the way to manage that is that you test that information by reaching out to clients on a small sample to begin with, okay, to test that relevance, because what we've done here, we show you how to identify the ideal client today. Remember, what you can do after you've done that, you can run the same exercise on the client to get those connection points that Beau was talking about. So you can run the same SWOT analysis, you can run the same market analysis on the client, and built into it is a lot of social science. So it's going to look at what the buying motives of what that particular clients would do. Then you're mapping the two together, and I think it would enable you to really begin to trust the information, Neil. But I really understand the question, because but you do it on a managed scale to begin with until you can trust the information.
Yeah, so one of the other things what we will share is, so where a lot of people are now using agentic, which is that following a fixed set of commands. We use agentic, which we've trained it to strategize and adapt and refine its actions kind of dynamically. So it drives intelligent usage of it, rather than it be following this fixed set of commands where it's kind of blinking into what it thinks it wants you to know. It almost starts off by trying to help you understand what you want to know. That's where that trust base comes in, because it's like, hold on, you're asking me questions that really help me think, am I looking to this, or am I looking to get this? You're not trying to stick me down the one route of rabbit hole of this is what you're going to tell me, regardless of what I really need. And that's where it's been built.
Cool. I guess it's the reasoning element to it, you know, and that's the logic about kind of, is it reasoning based, the tool?
And also as it gets to know more about you as an individual, it will become more and more personalized. I'm not going to say it's not an individual bot, but the way that our kind of strategy long term is that what we want to do is we want to work with experts within particular fields into vertical market strategies. And as we learn more about those vertical market strategies, okay, it will individualize. We're not a big tech house or anything like that, but we've developed it together as a, you know, in a symbiotic way, and it will learn more about your markets and become more and more individualized as it learns more about you.
Perfect. Thank you. I would love to have a follow-up call.
We'll arrange that. We'll give Gary all the details, and then a Calendly link, and you'll be more than happy to do any sessions after that. Of course, we would be.
Cool. Fantastic.
All right. Did you have questions?
You know what? I'll probably have too many, to be honest, especially going on from what Neil said, because the way I was looking at this is, and I don't know if this is true, what makes you different is not where you're getting the source from, but how you find that source. So I
Correct.
think what would be really cool, and I think what Neil was probably saying is what you really want, like when you go on ChatGPT now, it will show you where it got the information from. It'd be good that even if you had your own thing that said the information and data was from there, but it was gathered using our intelligence. Because
Yeah,
I think
Gary,
that's
the only thing we lacked today was not the tech, was the time to do
Yeah.
that. To be honest with you, that's the only thing.
Yeah,
we
I'm
lacked.
sure you have all that anyway. I could tell.
Yeah.
And then the last one obviously is price and how do people get access? Will you share that with us or?
Yeah, we'll share that within the group. Gary, I wasn't sure how we should follow up from today, but we're more than happy to share that. We've got like a deck and stuff like that we can share with them.
Yeah, we
but,
can share with that group. Yeah.
Individuals, I wasn't obviously share. I didn't want to step on your toes, Gary, and obviously give out a lot of details and stuff like that. But there's loads of different ways that you can interact with the group. Okay, either as on an ad hoc basis, monthly. Beau, as a consultant, there's loads of different ways that you can interact, depending on obviously the individual needs of the business. There's loads of different ways to do it. So,
yeah, all good. Was there any more questions? No. Okay, I'd just like to say thanks a lot, and it was a really good session. And I think what comes out of having calls like this is not just learning about what you're doing, but we start learning ourselves from what we've seen that you're doing as well. So, very cool presentation.
thank you very much indeed. Thank you, everyone. Nice to meet you all.